CBC's David Cochrane leads our coverage from Ottawa. The government taking a lot of heat on this. David, how is it playing out there in the nation's capital?
Yeah, so Hannah, the Conservatives were the first out of the gates today with a strong reaction to the cancellation of the Energy East project, putting the blame for this squarely at the feet of Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. Lisa Raitt, who's the Conservatives' deputy leader, held a news conference earlier this morning blaming the Prime Minister, saying that changes to the way these projects are assessed by the National Energy Board is what has killed this, and that Justin Trudeau has essentially killed, through his policies, a nation-building project that would have brought oil from Alberta to refineries in New Brunswick and created jobs right across the country. She also, as in that clip you just played, argued that this is an assault on the middle class. The Liberals like to say they're the defenders of middle-class interests. Raitt arguing that the cancellation of this project costs 15,000 middle-class jobs that would have been created during the construction phase. Here's what she had to say this morning.
This is a terrible day for the men and women who rely upon the Canadian energy sector for a job, to put food on the table for their family. Today is a result of the disastrous energy policies promoted by Justin Trudeau and his failure to champion the Canadian energy sector.
Now, what Raitt calls the failure to champion the Canadian energy sector, she says, led to the collapse of this project, says that Canadian oil projects are being put at a disadvantage compared to dictatorial countries that also produce oil, like, say, Venezuela or Saudi Arabia, and this is a threat to the Canadian economy. Hold the phone, says Jim Carr, the Natural Resources Minister. He flatly denies this, pointing to the fact that they've approved a couple of pipeline projects, particularly the Trans Mountain project from Kinder Morgan that will take oil from Alberta to the BC coast. And Jim Carr makes the argument this has nothing to do with politics or policies from the Trudeau government. This, in fact, is a market forces decision caused by commodity prices and a choice made by TransCanada. Here's the Natural Resources Minister.
Our government has approved 2 major export pipelines that are now under construction, and a third is expected to start soon. Canada is open for business. Our approach is growing the economy, creating jobs, and building strong communities from coast to coast to coast.
Well, the fallout of this is certainly being felt from coast to coast to coast, and I think you've got a précis there of what we're going to see today throughout question period and the attacks. The Conservatives blaming political factors for this deal not going ahead, this project dying. The Liberals saying it's all about market forces, not the Liberal government.
And if we go to the provincial level, some very divided reactions there as well. What are you hearing on that front, David?
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of stuff from provincial premiers, but also from opposition leaders at the provincial level. They're exposing some of the fault lines here. Like, we're going to talk about Rachel Notley and Brian Gallant, but I have to tell you, too, Jason Kenney and Brian Jean, the 2 leading contenders to lead the United Conservative Party in Alberta, are attacking the response out of Quebec today. And Brian Jean, in particular, is talking about rethinking equalization because Quebec politicians are celebrating the death of an Alberta oil project. But I want to give you the statement from Rachel Notley, the New Democratic Premier of Alberta, who's obviously disappointed in this. She talks about the uncertainty about the National Energy Board regulations. She says the NEB needs to send a clear message on what the future of project reviews look like in Canada. Our government understands that deliberation on upstream emissions and land use integrity is important and must continue. Investors need confidence, and we look forward to seeing that certainty in place soon. And uncertainty is always a big factor when you're committing billions of dollars to a project. And this is what Notley wants to see. She wants to see the National Energy Board reform completed and put in place so everybody knows the rules of the game, and then you can deal with the market forces once you know what the regulatory rules are going to be. At the other side of the country, where the pipeline would have ended at the New Brunswick refineries, Brian Gallant, disappointed in the collapse of this project, issued a statement today saying that essentially this is a blow to the Canadian economy. Like many New Brunswickers, we are disappointed. This project would have created jobs in New Brunswick and helped the Canadian economy. Interesting, as disappointed as Brian Gallant is, he is supporting Jim Carr's version of why this happened. He says it is not because of the political forces at play in Ottawa. He says it is because of market conditions, and that if TransCanada had pushed ahead, he believes it would have been approved.
Thank you, David. CBC's David Cochrane in Ottawa.